think now. Copy.
F1 Manager has made some changes to ERS in this year's game. While the main principle of how ERS works is the same, there have been some adjustments made to the level of control you have. In this video, I'm going to run through exactly how ERS works in F1 Manager 23, as it certainly is one of the more confusing parts of the game. Incorrectly using ERS can leave you at a huge disadvantage in a race, and I'm going to touch on some important tips to really utilise ERS to its fullest to give you a big advantage and not fall into an ERS hole. The ERS in F1 Manager 23 tries to replicate the real world system as much as possible. Energy recovery system is the name given to the part of the powertrain which generates extra electrical power to complement the power coming from your engine. The driver can choose to use this energy in different ways to give himself a boost in power, and this can help with putting in fast laps, overtaking, and even defending. You'll see on the ERS strategy screen a graphic of your battery and how full it is, along with a few different strategies to choose from. I'm going to start by explaining how to read this very top graphic as it's very important. I'll talk about the deployment, the harvesting, and the overall state of the battery. If you fully deplete your battery, you'll suddenly be unable to use the extra power and can be very vulnerable to cars behind you. So starting with how deployment and harvesting works, your ERS battery has a capacity of 4 megajoules. A driver can choose to deploy this across a lap, and if they want, they can use all of these 4 megajoules every lap. This is shown on the top left of the strategy screen. You can see how much energy your driver has used out of the maximum 4 megajoules just here. On the right of this graphic you'll see the harvest amount. Now a driver can harvest a maximum of just 2 megajoules each lap, and again you can see how much energy has been harvested here. Now is where things get a little bit confusing, because under this graphic you'll see the different strategies, and you can see that the fastest deployment mode will result in a net loss of minus 2 megajoules. So why, if a driver can use 4 megajoules of energy every lap, are we only losing 2 megajoules each lap? Well, this is because a driver will continue to harvest throughout a lap while deploying their ERS. Every lap a driver will harvest 2 megajoules or close to it. This happens automatically during the braking phases around a lap. And this means that on full deployment mode, the driver will use 4 megajoules of energy and harvest 2, and that results in that net loss of minus 2 megajoules that's shown on the deploy strategy. Now with that in mind, the strategy commands all of a sudden become a little clearer to understand. A driver always harvests 2 megajoules of energy every lap, but the amount of energy they deploy differs between the strategies. Deployment mode uses 4 megajoules, harvests 2, resulting in a net loss of minus 2. The neutral strategy deploys 2 megajoules and harvests 2, resulting in your battery staying pretty much the same every lap. The new top-up mode deploys 1.8 roughly megajoules of energy every lap and harvests 2, resulting in that 0.2 gain each lap. And then the full harvest mode still deploys energy using just 1 megajoules every lap and harvests 2 just like all the other deployment modes, and this results in a net gain of 1 megajoule per lap. Now this shows that the car will always harvest that full 2 megajoules each lap, even in the fastest deployment mode, and when your driver's harvesting, they will still deploy some energy. While F1 Manager 23 doesn't show you all of these exact calculations, knowing how each strategy deploys and harvests really helps you understand just how ERS works. At the end of each lap, the deployment and harvest limitations are reset, so a driver can start to replenish their battery once again into the first corner. So now we've looked at how each ERS strategy works in F1 Manager 2023, when should you actually use each different mode? And what happens if you run out of energy? So before I touch on that last question, I first want to run through the best times to use each different ERS strategy mode. If you can't wait though and need the answer on how to best recover your depleted battery, check out the description as I've got timestamps in there so you can skip forward. But back to the strategy modes, you only have 4 strategy modes in this year's F1 Manager game compared to 5 last year. In last year's game there were separate overtake and defend modes, and these were basically the same, so in this year's game they've been removed, and instead we have the extra ERS battle assist option. This time round we've got 4 strategies. You've got deploy, which will give you the fastest lap times but burns the most energy. Neutral deploys and harvests the same amount of energy each lap to keep your battery level. Top Up is a new mode which recovers a small bit of ERS each lap by harvesting a little bit more than is deployed, and the harvest mode will slow your driver down in order to recover the most energy. Generally, you'll want to use the deployment mode when trying to put in fast lap times. This can be before or after a pit stop to try and jump cars around you, or to close or open up a gap to cars around you. When attacking or defending from other cars, you'll want to use the deploy mode along with the new ERS battle assist. This new button will tell your driver to use the ERS strategically in places that are most likely to be an overtaking or defending spot, and this is typically on long straights. Enabling ERS battle assist won't result in faster lap times, so remember to turn it off when driving in clean air. It does work well to give your driver the best chance though of a successful overtake or defensive move. The neutral ERS strategy is the one you're most likely to use throughout a race. This will spend and harvest roughly the same amount of ERS each lap, keeping your battery in a neutral state. So if you're not attacking and you're not defending, and your battery is in a pretty good state, I'd recommend leaving the ERS strategy on neutral. The new top-up mode is very similar to neutral, but focuses on recovering a little bit of ERS each lap. This is ideal if you have cars around you and need to top up your battery, but you don't want to enter the full harvest mode and lose too much lap time. And the final ERS strategy is harvest. This focuses on recovering as much energy as possible. This mode is the slowest strategy, meaning you need to be aware of cars around you. If there's a car right behind you, you'll become very easy to overtake if you enable the harvest strategy, so be a little bit wary when you use it. So one of the biggest issues with ERS in F1 Manager 23 is running out of energy. This can happen incredibly easily just by running the deploy ERS strategy for a couple of laps. With the ability to accelerate the race up to 16 times, you can easily forget to take a driver out of deploy mode, and in as little as 10 or so seconds, they've all of a sudden completed 2 laps and you're out of battery. And this is something I've done on so many occasions. So when this does happen, you need to know how to efficiently get out of your ERS hole and how to recover the battery without being too much at risk from drivers behind you. Now, using the harvest strategy is certainly the quickest way to fully recover your battery. This will harvest 2 megajoules of energy each lap while your driver deploys 1. So from this, a full lap using the harvest mode will recover you 1 megajoule. And that means to take a battery from empty to full will require 4 full laps using the harvest ERS mode. While this is the quickest way to recover your battery completely, your driver will be slow for those 4 laps and can be easily overtaken or lose a lot of time. If you do completely run out of battery though, you'll almost certainly need to set your driver to harvest for at least an entire lap. Now you can manually switch between when your driver harvests throughout a lap, and this can help you tell your driver to harvest during the twisty sections of the track. Then just before you approach a straight or an overtaking spot, you can change your driver's strategy to neutral. This will allow them to use a little bit more ERS to help them defend themselves from a driver behind, but the downside of this is that your driver won't recover the 1 megajoule of energy per lap. Depending on how long you set them to the neutral strategy, you could only recover 0.5, 0.4 or less. My best advice would be to try to harvest for a full lap if you can, but do this if you aren't facing too much pressure from behind. Then you can change the strategy to the top up mode to continue harvesting a little bit each lap without being too slow. Top up is the new ERS strategy that allows your driver to recover 2 megajoules and only deploy 1.8, and this will slowly over time increase the energy in the battery. While it will only recover the energy slowly, the upside is that you won't be as slow as if you were on the full harvest mode. If you do have a car behind you and you have no ERS left, I'd recommend doing what I just mentioned. Set your driver to harvest during the parts of the track where you're unlikely to be overtaken, then change the deployment mode to neutral to try and defend from the car behind. Now if you are defending from a driver behind, or if you're attacking a car ahead of you, you should look to use the ERS battle assist. This will tell your driver to strategically use the ERS in areas where they are likely to complete an overtake or to help them defend from cars behind. Enabling this mode simply tells your driver how to use their ERS. They will still deploy and harvest the same amount depending on which strategy you have selected. The driver will simply use the ERS in specific parts of the lap. And this can be used when you're in an ERS hole. If you run out of energy and have to go into harvest or the top-up mode, you can still enable the ERS battle assist. Again, this will simply instruct your driver to deploy their energy at strategic places around the lap, but they will only use the 1.8 megajoules of deployment if they are in top-up mode as an example. If you're not battling with any cars though, make sure you disable the battle assist. Keeping it on will still tell your driver to use ERS strategically, but when it's turned off, the driver will go back to using ERS for the most efficient parts of the lap to put in the fastest lap times. So you shouldn't really just keep this enabled for an entire race. Now, one area where you will always want to run in the deploy ERS mode is at the very start of a race. This will give your driver the fastest start and the quickest opening lap, and will maximise their chance at gaining positions on lap 1. As the race starts, you don't have control over your strategy until the cars pull away, so I'd recommend in the strategy screen just before a race starts to change your driver's ERS mode to deploy, as well as increasing their fuel mode as well. Then after the first few turns, or after lap 1 has settled down a little bit, you can reduce the ERS and fuel modes back down to a neutral state. And the final thing I do want to touch on quickly is the ideal time to actually harvest your battery during a race. And quite simply, this is during a safety car or a VSC. During these periods, all cars will be driving at a slower pace, so there is no need to push your car, your tyres or your deployment modes. As soon as the safety car comes out, reduce your ERS mode to harvest, and also reduce your fuel pace commands as well. A safety car always gives you a couple of laps at least to recover your ERS, giving you a full battery ready for the race restart. And with that last tip done, it rounds out my F1 Manager 2023 ERS guide. Hopefully after watching this, ERS and how it works has become a little easier to understand. Knowing how each deployment mode actually deploys and harvests is the most important thing to take away from this, as this hidden information can really help to inform your own decisions on strategy throughout a race. If you've enjoyed this video, consider liking it, and let me know in the comments below how you're finding F1 Manager 23 and whether you find yourself falling into ERS holes as much as I do. And as always, if you're enjoying this content, please consider subscribing, as I'll be releasing more F1 Manager content, more F1 23 content in the days to come. But for now guys, enjoy this video and I'll see you on track.